Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So thank you everybody for joining in to today's member meeting. The agenda for today's call includes a few ITCC member announcements, and then we'll dive into our presentation for this month, Disrupting the IT Skills Validation and Assessment Methodology. This is going to be presented by Anna Rubin, who's a manager of CCNA, CCNP certification programs at Cisco. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you. Welcome.
As far as announcements, we're thrilled to announce that Kristen Berner will be the new marketing chair and joining the ITCC board. Kristen is the marketing manager at Question Mark and has many years experience creating and implementing strategic marketing visions for organizations across various industries. Many of you probably met Kristen at the in-person meeting or are familiar with her in other task forces. She's already had a lot of great ideas to help with ITCC's marketing and will be a great fit for the position. So welcome, Kristen. Kristen, I think you're on the line.
Thank you. Absolutely.
So with that, the marketing task force will pick up again, which we're very excited about. The next meeting will take place on Wednesday, July 25th at 1 p.m. Central Time. If anybody does not have it on their calendar that would like to, please feel free to email info@itcertcouncil.org and we'll ensure you get added. Also, a reminder that the fall in-person meeting will take place October 15th to the 16th in San Ramon, California. SAP will be our host, so thank you very much, Sherry, for working with us on the details. You can expect to see an official invite go out by the end of the week, so you guys can start to book your travel and plan accordingly. Finally, up here, just a reminder of the current task force meetings and their scheduled times. If you are not currently participating in one or would like to join another one, your voice is certainly welcome and we would love to have you.
And Andrea, this is Clyde. If I could just interrupt for a quick minute. Just wanted to encourage folks to submit ideas for future education sessions. On the shared drive, we have a log of upcoming sessions and prospective topics, but I'm always got an ear to the ground on the new topics, and we're working with Rory McCorkle and some other folks to try to put one together on GDPR and its implications now that it's here. But I just wanted to open the floor and remind everyone to please reach out if you have ideas or suggestions or topics that would be of interest to the whole group. End of plug.
Absolutely. Thanks, Clyde. And with that, we'll turn it over to Anna.
Anna Rubin, which most of you know, again, from Cisco's certification program team. And really what I wanted to show you today briefly and then open it up for discussion was kind of what I think will blow your mind a little bit because it's very futuristic. But I really wanted you to see the future tools that network engineers can use to interact with the network. So a big disclaimer, this is an exploratory session. It's really futuristic. It's a journey into the next steps down the road. Nothing that you're going to see today has been productized. So we're experimenting, proof of concept. We're just trying something new to show the community how we can harness new technologies. And at Cisco, this really isn't just about certifications. This is being led by the certifications team, but the technology that we envision using will be throughout Cisco with AR and VR. I mean, really, I think within all your organizations, you could imagine the numerous applications this could have. A salesperson doing a proof of concept to a customer. So anyway, a lot of it's about AR, VR, and then in the end, I want to ultimately try to put this all together so that you can see how this can help in the assessment arena. So picking up the pace. Our program started in 1993 when we introduced certifications to the IT industry. And while our certifications are highly respected in the community, we continue to grow and evolve to maintain that spot. CCIE programs are pinnacle, and this year we're celebrating the 25-year anniversary of our program. So we've made a lot of changes in the first 2 decades, but really those changes are nothing like we anticipate in the next few years. So what's in the future beyond 2018 is really stuff like I'm going to show you today. So here's our vision statement to the community. Learning that Cisco wants to continuously evolve. We want to be the trendsetter. We have more than 3 million certified individuals through the CCNA and CCIE program. And we want to continually disrupt and change and set new standards. I mean, it's really been a good 2 decades, but we can't stay in our comfort zone. I think I'm preaching to the choir here when I say we all feel the same way about the future. I've had many discussions with a lot of you on this call, and we know that we have to evolve to remain relevant. Of course, the future is all about digitization. Whatever business function you belong to, we really know it's about getting ahead of the curve. Statistically, 75% of businesses will fully digitize by the end of 2020. Yet about 30% of them, well, only 30% will be successful. So what does that mean? It means a lot of failures. And the number one reason for a lot of these failures is the failure to innovate, to think outside the box, to try new things, to reinvent yourself. It's not easy, and it's quite frankly scary. We experience that on our end too. So whatever field you're in, you know you need to innovate and to reinvent yourself. And the certification industry is really in the spotlight there. We ourselves really do have to innovate with new generations, new ways of learning, new ways of measuring and assessing skills, the sort of saturation in the marketplace in some industries. We're thinking about all of this, and we're continually trying to keep ourselves relevant and really thinking about how we take it to the next level. So what I'm going to show you today is all about R&D. We're trying new things. Whether we succeed or fail really isn't the point. You can try 10 different things, and 9 are going to fail, and 1's going to be successful. And trust me when I say over the last 2 years, we've tried lots of things that haven't worked. Today, I'm going to show you 2 things that have. That's always the exciting part. But I would never want to let you know that that wasn't with a lot of mishaps and a lot of failures and struggles and challenges along the way. So these are some of the futuristic capabilities that we're working on within Cisco. It all started with virtual reality, gamification. We know that's kind of where it all started, but it's picking up, and we're seeing VR being used in the medical community, gosh, in automotive. I've seen it in retail recently. And we really feel like in the IT space, there's a lot of potential here. Augmented reality. All I have to say here is Pokemon Go or Snapchat filters, and really everyone understands that one. A mixed reality is kind of a hybrid of augmented reality and virtual reality. Sort of gives you the sense of the physical world, but you're actually interacting with a 3D augmentation. The haptic gloves, these are about 4D, about the touch and feel. And this is one of the most fun things we're working on right now because it's really new technologies changing very, very rapidly out there. Neurosensors. This is kind of where you wear something on your head that looks like a hat and it scans your brain signals. I mean, how cool would it be if we were able to sense that a person was cheating on an exam? That's very futuristic, and all these, issues come to mind here. But, this is a technology that's out there that I think would be way cool. Holographic technology, we're still researching. Cognitive computing, all about logic. AI and bots. In our environment, there's a proctor. So just imagine that it's a bot proctor, like a Siri or an Alexa. And in this world of testing, you could say to a candidate, configure OSPF, and you have 10 minutes to do it, and you've got this bot watching you, and you've got a back end recording everything that the person's doing, and every person, gets a new task. It would be really cool. Now, these are the 3 we're kind of going to focus on today, mostly VR and AR. And if you don't know the difference or need a refresher, here it is in a nutshell. So VR really replaces the real world, and AR is really overlaid or superimposed on the real world. And then mixed reality merges the two. So in the virtual reality space, you put on a headset and then you completely immerse yourself in this virtual environment. So there's really no interaction with the real world for this one. And here's what Cisco's been working on. First, you have your headset, and then you have, it's a head mounting device, and then you have controllers or gloves, and then you have the application or your software. And the application really is a live network running in the back end. So this is not just about some fancy graphics here. It looks cool, but it's a live network that's running behind the scenes. There's a real router, there's a real switch. And what you do in this virtual world will correspond with the network itself. So if you unplug a cable, the switch port will come down. If you plug a cable in, things will come up. So there's a real marriage between the virtual reality technology and the Cisco networking devices. This is something that we've never been able to accomplish before. So this is where the connection came in. And this is new for us because we've succeeded in marrying the two to where they're interacting seamlessly. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of a teaser about these applications, but truthfully, I wish we were all in a room together where I could put this headset and these gloves on you and let you walk into this virtual world, because there's no better way to have that aha moment than to do that. And we have been demoing this at different places. Any of you were at Cisco Live last month. We demoed this. We demoed it at some other smaller events. I even was just mentioning to Clyde at the beginning that, we may be able to bring some of this to our next ITCC meeting and really show you some of this in person, because that's the best way to understand it. But we've got 5 modules so far with the VR. The first one is Be the Router. So it's sort of layer 3 control plane, the decision-making process. So, when a packet comes in, what do you do with it? So for this one, you are the router, and a packet will come in. You need to inspect it, look at its configuration, and then make a decision on where it's going to go, just like a real router would do. And the second is Be the Switch, and that's the layer 2 control plane, sort of that switching, forwarding of the frames. Then the next 2 have to do with the lab, that layer 1 environment, troubleshooting and building the lab. And really, this is where most of the problems occur in a network anyway. And one of the things we've realized is that we've sort of lost the sense of that physical world, that rack and stack mentality or experience. And with the virtual reality, we can bring that back, and you can still have the feeling of the physical world with the virtual reality. And then our most recent is a cybersecurity module. And this one is completely using hand gestures. So you're swiping things in and out, you're moving things left and right, you're zooming in like you would on your iPhone, where you use your fingers to zoom in or zoom out or summon something. You've seen it in the movies, Minority Report, Iron Man. Like, now this is actually something that's real. So we think this is the future interface, where we're going to have engineers interacting with something. So I'm going to show you a quick video. Like I said, I tried to figure out how to put the headset on, project my screen, connect to the WebEx, and it was just way out of my brain power today. So I have a small, brief video that I'll show that kind of summarizes the 3 of them. Oh, whoops. Oh, that ended a little quickly. Sorry about that. Oh, you didn't hear the audio? I'm sorry. Okay, the audio was actually kind of futuristic and cool. Me and my technology, I'm just failing on the ball this time. But all right, maybe I'll send out that video to all of you because it's actually pretty cool.
That would be great.
What you saw there was a mix of all 5 of these modules. So you saw a little bit of the swiping with the hand gestures and the cybersecurity one, the moving of the cables in the lab, the grabbing of the packets and changing the configurations on them a little bit in the router. Again, though, you really need to touch and feel it, but all of that, the graphics and all of that inside the router or inside the switch or in the control room of a cybersecurity operations center, that's the feel that we know our candidates will instantly be able to relate to and really connect with. But how does it all work? Now, really quickly, because this is at the very edge of my brain power, there are 2 parts. There's the virtual reality application, and then there's the back end. So the back end is consisting of really 2 pieces. And the first one is a custom tool that's been developed by Cisco. And right now it's really only available within Cisco. But it has a virtual panel that's the piece that lets us quickly sort of cross-connect and disconnect these IOL instances to each other or between the virtual machines. So essentially a virtual switch. And then the third component is that feedback server down at the bottom. You'll see this is the user interface for the candidate where we can enter user information, track their actions, communicate with them in the feedback server for grading, for results. I'm not really doing the technology justice, but it all has a pretty robust network working behind it. And these are kind of the front end, back end communication. So a candidate will be working with the virtual application, making requests of the back end, you know, whether it's saying doing a run command or connecting ports or disconnecting ports. And then the back end will receive that information and then send information back. So that's that sort of front end, back end communication that will happen in this whole virtual environment. Now, augmented reality. Again, I wasn't going to be able to figure out exactly how to do that. So I'm just going to show you a few screenshots here. But this is the first app that we've ever done. And you can download it on Apple or Android. And it's interacting with network devices in the physical world. So there is a network topology that gets superimposed these 3D graphics into your physical world wherever you are. So we designed this app for our recent Cisco Live event, and you can download the app, but you're not going to be able to interact with it unless you have these markers that sort of open it up. It's a key to unlock these tasks. We did that because we built it with the sort of test delivery in mind, where someone may have the app, but their challenges will need to be, their tasks to be completed will need to be unlocked by some type of authorizing agent, whether it's a proctor at a test center or a remote proctor of some kind, so that there's an element of security on that end. So I can bring the markers with me next time I see you in person and let you kind of open it up and play with it, but you're not going to be able to do that without it right now. I did some screenshots though, because what happens is the app presents a challenge that a user must complete. And so you have to think about these as ways to measure a task in an entire domain maybe, or just several tasks out of a domain. But this first challenge, if you'll see here, has 5 tasks. The next one has 5 tasks. And so a candidate would choose these and then they would navigate between one to the other, okay? So we'll start with task 1 here. And what'll happen is when you click that, this is where on the left the marker comes in. And these are screenshots I took from my phone yesterday, actually, as I opened up the app, because I do have the markers, but you'll see here on the left that that's how it's unlocked. You'll hover over this marker in the background and it'll unlock it. And then you'll see the task you have to perform. So this one's about the single point of failure here. And then when you launch it, your phone camera will come up and it'll ask you to scan your physical environment. It'll sense kind of the depth, and then it'll provide a floating topology right at about a little above your waist height after it's sensed the depth with your camera. And that way you can walk through the topology. You can turn around and look back and forward. You can walk up to a device and make changes to that device. You can add devices to this network. You can mark certain devices in certain roles within the network. It's really cool. And you follow the instructions. You click on the devices as it tells you to do that. And then you're sort of interacting with this using augmentation. So here I've walked up to a device, I've tapped on it with my phone, and it's asked me, do you want to remove this device? Do you want to add a connection? I've made a few connections, and then I've come to this last step, and I think I'm finished here, so I click the finish button. Of course, I failed. It's giving me this feedback immediately, and it says, sorry, Anna, you didn't complete the task correctly. Better luck next time. So you're able to sort of have that communication between the front and the back end and give the candidate immediate feedback. So this is the work in progress, and we'll still working on this. We're certainly not anywhere near taking this out in the market yet, but I just wanted to let you see kind of what we're doing so that you could see the big picture. Sort of the future way to interact, to make it more interesting, more engaging, really for testing and for learning. Even for other areas, we think these technologies can really be powerful and enabling. So potentially in the future, we may re-engineer our program. I mean, imagine if you're sitting at home taking a test with full authentication and monitoring, you know, and I know we're all working on that here. But what if this is no longer science fiction? You know, imagine using hand gestures, performing tasks that you're assigned to. So where are we going? Well, we really want to reinvent the testing business completely. We want to digitize it. And the foundation of all this will be these cutting edge technologies. So this is really just the beginning. We have a lot of experimenting to do, but I'll tell you, we're working on it. And I really just wanted to share our progress with you today and move it from conversations that we're having individually to really a full group. And I know these conversations will continue for years as we go a little bit further down the road. But I just wanted to wet your whistle a little bit, show you, and really, I hope I just succeeded in about 30 minutes. Oh, yes, a little bit less than that, actually. Because I really want to just throw it out there. We have a good crowd today, a good attendance, and just to see what else you guys are out there doing with this. Is this something you've played around with, you're moving in that direction, or you know, get that conversation going? And if you have any questions, I'll certainly try to answer them. And if they go past my limits, my brain power, then I'll find somebody who can answer them for you.
So Anna, I think you kind of answered the question I had, but so you're looking at this not just for a lab and continuing education, but also potentially for the actual certification exam at some point in the future.
We are. You know, Cisco's certification team is the lead on this. And so that's what began this sort of R&D process within Cisco. So that is at the forefront of realizing that this is technology that we can absolutely take advantage of in our certification business. But we've also kept the big picture in mind and continue to involve others within Cisco, because we know that, you know, like I said, you could have a salesperson, you could have a module that demos something. You could use this in customer support. There's just so many applications, but at Cisco, it's started here in the certification team. So is anybody else playing around with this?
Anna, it's Liz Burns. Can I ask you, we're not playing around with that. Haven't even thought about it yet. But can I ask you, what kind of staffing did you receive for this? Or, you know, how do you go from an exam developer to this?
Okay, and this is one of the advantages, Liz, of working for a big corporation. Now, I'm not going to pretend in my career, I've worked for the majority of certification organizations that I've worked for have been small. And you're right, resources are so limited that if you have extra money, there's a lot of things you're going to do before this. So we're very fortunate to be at Cisco and to have these kind of R&D resources available. So, we're all on Chris Jacobs' team, and Yusuf Baji, most of you know him, is leading this initiative, and his team consists of all of the CCNA, CCNP, and CCIE program exams. So we have, close to 200 exams, and so we have a really large certifications team. So we have been able to add some new staff just for this.
But it's a completely different skill set, isn't it? I guess this isn't, your grandmother's exam developer, is it? It's completely, so it's not just number of resources, it's a skill set.
Agreed, 100%. This is, we have programmers working on this. Absolutely. This is not just the psychometrician and the manager of exam development in a back room.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Anna, this is Clyde. I have a question about the thinking in terms of the hardware side of this, of what the candidate has to use. I'm sort of inferring that in the short term, the candidate would come to a Cisco provided environment to get hooked up with the gear. But is there a longer term view where the sort of technology becomes kind of retail available for end users?
Probably yes and yes, Clyde. So right now we deliver our CCIE exams in Cisco-owned labs across the world. So that is that's our highest level exam, yet it's the smallest volume exam because it's right there at that expert level. So candidates already travel to a lab environment that we own and maintain for that. So this would be easy to incorporate somewhere there because we already have all this equipment that we need. Now, as we move further down the line, you would need to have access to this level of equipment. So yes, I can see this being a part of something that's at a test center and possibly even being a kit as we move further down the road and move into some type of remote proctoring environment where this is a kit that a candidate receives. Again, all futuristic and premature. These are things we just bounce around in the what ifs, and there's all, the minute that's coming out of my mouth, I've got 15 other things popping in my head.
What about bandwidth? Do you have any sense of how much bandwidth is required to be able to do the push back and forth of the VR?
No, right now, not any more than would be needed in ABE. So the real bandwidth necessary is sort of the server capacity on the back end within Cisco. So the communicating between the candidate and this back end won't require much more than this open connection, similar to what you already have when you're delivering internet-based testing.
Okay, yeah.
But it's the back end robustness on that server side and the capacity on our back end that will be what needs to go increase.
Anna, this is Wallace Judd. You were talking about augmented reality. The best instantiation of augmented reality that I've seen is Dyson Krupp with their elevators. In the chat window, I put a link to a YouTube of how they use augmented reality in training and in helping their support people. So I thought you might be interested in that.
Oh, thank you, Wallace. I will absolutely look at that. I mean, guys, there's a lot of people out there using AR, and with iOS 11, you know, that was the first time Apple, I mean, AR is there now. So we know that there's going to be a lot more uses of that really starting to hit the market now that it's native in iOS 11. So I think it's going to be becoming very, very popular.
Agreed.
This is Liberty. I have a quick question. Since Cisco's been doing labs, what do you see is the added benefit of going this direction versus just continuing with your labs? What does this give you that the labs don't?
It allows us to expand our reach. You know, for someone to come at that CCIE level, and we don't see this replacing that in the very near future, because our CCIE labs, they are 8-hour labs where a person is on site actually, you know, building networks. So that level of rigor, and that's something that you can only offer to a small group of people at that very highest expert level. But our largest program is our CCNA, followed by our CCNP. So to be able to take that experience, up until now, we've just been able to simulate an environment, really just emulate an environment, truthfully, where we have simulates and simulations that have a modified version of an IOL, and you know, only support certain commands, and so they give that feel of a hands-on experience. But they're expensive to build, they're hard to maintain, they're fraught with challenges in regards to, you know, recognizing that you're not supporting a full environment. And this will be a game changer, because if you can move in this direction, then you can make changes to your exam questions, to the tasks, at a whole different level than publishing a multiple choice exam. Again, though, let me say, the devil is in the details. And months and months and months are spent talking about the details, and we've spent months and months talking about them. And like I said, we are still in this whole proof of concept, because, I mean, there's so many what ifs and what abouts that need to be conquered, but we've decided it's not going to keep us from moving forward, and we're going to move forward with this, and along the way address those and solve them.
This is Peter Pascal. Question for you about the front end. Can you comment a little bit about the tools, what your R&D folks said about the tools used to build the VR experience itself? Is this stuff really also coming along thanks to animation or video game technology, or is it also kind of highly customizable and expensive to produce? I'm wondering what you found out on that end of the problem.
Yeah, and Peter, thank you for that question. Right now, the way we were able to marry this virtual reality experience with the live IOL network in the back, that kind of communication, that connection, we did have to customize and create that on our own. That's not there yet at the level that allows that live interaction, so that when a person pulls a cable out virtually, the switchboard goes down in reality.
Sure.
So that was absolutely something that took a long time and a lot of resources to create and to make work. And that was the bulk of what happened over the last couple of years, you know, because when it looks pretty and you're playing a game and that kind of stuff, that's more that sort of front end and that virtual, the environment, the video that you saw, you know, that fancy, wow, I'm in the middle of I'm a router and I'm in the middle of a network and that kind of thing. But the real back end communication is where the challenges have been. Now, I do know that, I mean, we see this all the time as technology gets out there and as more people use it and as more needs arise, then there is going to be more technology increases and improvements that may automate that and may, you know, anytime you're out there in the front being the trendsetter, you're kind of having to start from scratch. But we're hoping that as we move forward, we're able to share that with others so that we can all move there together. No one needs to reinvent the wheel in our industry. We do that way too much in certification, and it's just not necessary.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think the front end too, you know, what I hope to see is that things like game engines, game rendering technology, animation studios, animation tools, all of that gets to a level where you can drive down some of the costs of the front end creation because the tool quality is better, you know, because you're sort of defining one environment. But I can imagine the point you made is still tricky. How do you connect that front end to a live virtual back end? But,
yeah.
And then
how do you scale it? How do you scale it?
Yeah, right.
And that's another thing that we all recognize that, you know, depending on the size of your organization, you know, that's a game changer too. So that's why I wanted to share some of this with you guys today. Some of you know about it. We've had separate discussions with you guys, with different people, different organizations and member organizations. But we're hoping to really set some standards in this so that others can piggyback on it. We have a few minutes left if anybody wants to jump in. If anybody's doing something in this lines or had an experience, I'd love to hear about it.
I'll share one thing from Pearson's perspective. This isn't out of you, but out of a different group doing educational employment training. And it's an example that illustrates, I think, where maybe some of the early traction will occur. In other words, I believe that some of the better opportunities for using this are where the current testing or training mode is really expensive, or is very like mission critical, like in medical. We have a VR application for testing crane operator and crane direction skills. So in a lot of construction work sites, the crane operator is accompanied by someone on the ground giving them directions. And the training for that and the certification for that has historically involved putting people on real and mock job sites in real cranes with real equipment. You can imagine it's very expensive. And so VR provides a great opportunity because the economics are such that you can invest in what's still at this point expensive content development and custom, you know, animation and that work, but still receive a big benefit because now what you're eliminating is the need to schedule people into real work sites with real physical equipment, but actually able to test them. Particularly, I think it's the crane signal person that is being trained and tested this way with some technology. And so I think that was it was really interesting to see. Like I said, it wasn't View, it was a different group within Pearson, but it struck me that part of the lesson there and the lesson that we've seen with the medical stuff we've done is really about cases where the bleeding edge might be where the economics of doing that training and testing are already really expensive or limit who can access it. Kind of like your point about, you know, trying to improve the accessibility and not requiring people just to be in certain labs.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I just posted in the chat the link to the video that, so you got to see the video, but you can hear the fun music that goes with it. And this is Yusuf's LinkedIn page, or a page that he's created. And guys, I encourage you to follow him in whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, because he really is spearheading this R&D, and it's a real privilege to be a part of his team and be a part of that futuristic thinking with him. So he really is the brainpower behind this. All right, well, Bristol, I'll turn it back over to you. Everybody might get some extra time today.
Yep. Are there any final questions? Thank you very much for Anna for that engaging presentation.
Well, I look forward to continuing the discussion when we're in person and as we continue to meet. I think there's a lot of brain power in this room, and we are the future.
Absolutely. This presentation has been recorded, so this will be available for all of you guys to view after. We'll also post the link that Anna sent if anybody wants to reference that as well. And thank you, everybody, for joining today. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks all.